People said what I put in my garage would never work. I did it anyways. Here's what happened. I first gathered 2 square steel beams, a can of paint, and door hinges. I cut out 1 triangle, then measured 6 inches down to cut off the extra metal at an angle, and saved it for something very important later. I repeated this process on the second steel beam, and bent them both over on that triangle cut. I welded my bent metal together, and ground everything down for a smooth finish. I did the same thing to my second steel beam, then welded my 2 pieces together to create 1 solid rectangle frame. Next, I needed a larger, thicker piece of steel, but all of the pieces I had were too small. So I used the scraps I had to weld together the larger piece I needed to finish my project. I ground down the weld so things would be flush. Then I welded my 2 extra smaller steel beams from earlier to my new piece of metal and drilled 4 holes for bolts that we'll get to later. I welded this new piece to our rectangle frame and added 2 hinges. But there was a problem. I accidentally welded my second hinge on upside down, so I cut it off and reattached. I cleaned things up and began painting my new piece light gray and prepared it for its final home. I marked studs on my wall but decided to reinforce the steel hinges by welding them to a larger piece of steel. Once I was done, I touched up the paint and bolted it to my wall. I then bolted on something that I will use hundreds of times throughout the year, a retractable garden hose from Giraffe Tools. This steel frame allows me to swing my 90-foot hose out of my garage directly into my yard to water my garden. And when I'm done, the hose automatically retracts and the steel frame folds down and magnetically locks back into place.